Hi, I'm Kristina Bergsten with the Animal Law Firm, where we are fighting for the underdog. And today I have a special request. We have an underdog in need. His name is Zion, and he has been impounded, which kind of means imprisoned, in the Buddy Center in Castle Rock, Colorado since November of 2022. This is kind of a complicated situation because Zion's criminal case is on appeal. Zion was convicted. He was accused. His owner pled guilty. Zion is convicted of 3 separate dog skirmishes. Dog-on-dog skirmishes, just establishing dominance. Nobody was hurt. No blood was drawn. No humans were injured. The first 2 happened within a couple weeks of each other, and they were so minor that one of them was dismissed and the other one was pled out to what's called a deferred judgment sentence. That means in Colorado that as long as no other violations of law occur in a 12-month period in this instance, then the case gets dismissed. Deferred judgment sentences are only offered in very low-level offenses, typically people with no criminal history. And so Zion's first 2 incidents were so minor that one was dismissed outright and the other was basically made to be dismissed in the end. Unfortunately, Zion got into a 3rd skirmish before the expiration of the 12 months, and so his owner went in, pled guilty, and the judge ordered that Zion be relinquished to the Buddy Center. The Buddy Center in Castle Rock is a satellite location for the Denver Dumb Friends League. This is important later. So the case is on appeal because, and part of the appeal is challenging the constitutionality of the Town of Parker ordinance, which says that either if your dog bites another person or animal in this case, your dog can either be put down, euthanized, or the dog can go back home. There's absolutely no distinction in the ordinance as to what kinds of behavior warrant euthanasia and what kinds of behavior warrant going home. There's not even a number of prior offenses that indicate that the dog must be euthanized if he's had X number of prior incidents. So the other part of this too is that, so we're appealing that, challenging the constitutionality of that, because the judge ordered that he be relinquished when he only has the option to euthanize or to return to the owner. We strongly believe, given the very minor nature of these offenses, the 3rd of which the other dog owner didn't even want to press charges because of how minor it was, but the Town of Parker went ahead and pressed charges anyway. So sorry, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, so these are all so minor, we think that Zion should go home. That's kind of what our appeal is saying. We've asked the appellate court to release Zion, but the appellate court has said no. So Zion is not necessarily held because of his sentence. This is where it gets quirky and weird and very, very wrong. Zion is acting as the bond for the appeal. So normally when somebody appeals a case, they pay money. Usually it's cash. Sometimes it can be called what's known as a surety. Some of you might have heard this if you watch like bounty hunter stuff, or like, I don't really watch any legal shows, so I don't know if it comes up in like Law and Order. But like, sometimes if the bond is really, really high and you can't afford it, you get what's called a surety. So you pay someone to put up the money for you, and then they keep whatever down payment you made. Usually it's like 10%. So if the bond is $1 million, you have to put up, I don't know why I went with that example. If the bond, I can't do the math. If the bond is like $100,000 and you have to put up 10%, that's like $10,000. Please don't quote me on the math, but whatever, you get the point. It's 10% typically. But anyway, so instead of doing that, instead of making my client pay money, because during the sentencing, the Town of Parker's attorney argued, let me back up. So the 3rd offense happened because my client's husband took the dog for a walk. It was raining or slick or something. I don't know. The Town of Parker disputes that it was raining on this day. Whatever. The pavement stones were wet. The husband slipped on the pavement stones, fell down, hit his head, dropped the leash. Zion got into a little minor skirmish with another dog. Broken up immediately, whatever. Shortly after this, the husband died of unrelated causes, okay? Like heart failure, something like that. The town of Parker during sentencing goes to the judge and says, oh, you can't trust the defendant, so the dog must be impounded because her husband died and she wasn't honest with the court in telling you her husband died. And so my associate attorney was handling this case at the time, and she said, that doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense. We didn't tell the court that her husband died because it's a private personal tragedy and it's not related to this case. We gave you that information because we were hoping to work something out with you. And instead, she didn't say all of this on the record, but she said that first part. But basically, this prosecutor decided to take my client's personal devastating tragedy of the death of her husband and use it against her as fodder for why the court shouldn't trust her and therefore needed to impound her dog during the appeal. So the judge says, well, they're fighting impoundment, they're fighting relinquishment, so I'm not going to order the dog to be relinquished, or well, I'm ordering the dog to be relinquished, but I'm not going to impound him as part of the relinquishment. I'm going to impound him as the bond for the appeal. So the judge is making a living, breathing, thinking, feeling being act as a bond, like a piece of property or like a dollar bill for the appeal. Appeals can take, I've had appeals recently take up to 2.5, 3.5 years. So, and the judge just at the end, when my associate pointed out how long appeals can take, the judge said, oh, well, I'm sure the appellate court will deal with this quickly. We'll dispense with this quickly. Nope. And it doesn't look like it's going to be dispensed with quickly, especially because now the Dumb Friends League is filing frivolous motions because their attorney's feelings are hurt. And the town of Parker refuses to talk to me because I keep asking for this dog to be released or to at least get information on the dog. And they said that if I contact them again, it's considered harassment. So this is what we're dealing with. No one is thinking about the dog. And the Dumb Friends League has no incentive to think about the dog because they're making, or I want to say between $400 and $500 a month on this dog sitting in a cage 24/7. My client has to pay every single month to keep her dog in the Dumb Friends League. Otherwise, the town has said that if she doesn't pay during the appeal, they're going to tell the Dumb Friends League to give the dog up. And I don't really want to test that threat because once the Dumb Friends League adopts the dog out, it's going to be next to impossible. Well, they won't adopt the dog out. They can't. There's just no way. He's been sitting in solitary confinement for too long. He has to be rehabilitated at this point. And we have Zion's trainer who is willing to take him and work with him until this appeal is dispensed with, but they're refusing. They won't. So the long and short of it is that we need your help. We need people to express their outrage and to inform the town of Parker elected officials what's going on in their town, how their attorneys are abusing their power and hurting this dog. I mean, there's no other word for this treatment other than it's inhumane. So if you go to our Facebook page, if you go to our Instagram page, maybe on LinkedIn, I'm not sure, I haven't checked yet. But yeah, definitely on Facebook and Instagram, you can find information on how to contact the town of Parker, Colorado elected officials and the judge himself, and send them emails saying, you know, especially if you have like behavioral experience with dogs or you're a veterinarian or something, like explain how wrong this is because they don't know that this happens. I've already had a couple of people tell me that, oh, I emailed the mayor and he said he has no idea what I'm talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure he doesn't. That is part of the problem, I think, right? So anyway, so yeah, check that out. I'll try to put it in the comments here if I can. But yeah, please help Zion. This is bigger than all of us because if there's an injustice anywhere, it's a threat to justice everywhere. So yeah, thanks very much for your help, for your time. I really appreciate it. Zion appreciates it. His owner appreciates it. Thank you so much for all you do for animals and take care, my underdogs. Look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.